Hey everyone. So last time I showed you how to connect a device to Resin and push a simple Hello World Python application. And as you can see, it's running here. So this week we'll be deploying a very basic application that tackles a couple core concepts of Resin IO. Now what this application does is read the CPU usage on the device and save those readings to an SQL database. So the first thing we need to do is download the new source code and add our application's remote endpoint like we did in the first tutorial. Then we'll need to do a forced push because our Git history on the Resin remote differs from what we have locally. Now while this is pushing, I'll take you through the code. So the first thing to note is that I'm using a dockerfile.template instead of a plain Docker file. So what this allows us to do is pass variables into the Resin builders like we've done here. So Resin machine name is a Resin builder variable that detects your application's device type and passes it in. So if we're using a Raspberry Pi 2, it would insert it here and pull the right base image from our Docker Hub registry. In that way, it allows you to push this application to any device type without changing any of the code, which is pretty cool. Then from here, it's just standard Docker file where we install dependencies and copy the code into the container. So if you look at the source code, it's a very simple Flask application. We're using Flask SQL Alchemy to interact with the SQL database. But what's really important here is that we're storing the database file in the /data directory. This is because /data is a special folder in the Resin device file system. It is essentially a Docker data volume, meaning that this folder is guaranteed to be maintained across updates, and therefore files contained in it can act as persistent storage. Then if we look at read.py, we'll see a simple loop that reads the CPU usage and saves it to the database. It also counts the number of rows in the database and prints that out. So the frequency of the loop can be controlled by this interval environment variable. Here I've set the default value to 20 seconds if no variable is already set. So environment variables allow you to provide a runtime configuration to your application, which can be updated without having to modify your source code. They're ideal for keeping secrets and other sensitive values out of your code base. But for this example, we're just going to set the loop interval. So Resin provides two kinds of environment variables, the application-wide and the per device, where per device variables would override application-wide. So if we go to the Resin dashboard, we can see the container is downloaded and it's started on the device. If we check out the logs, you can see the CPU usage and the number of rows being logged. So first, let's change the frequency of the loop to 1 second. So to do that, we'll go to the device environment variable and create a new one called interval that corresponds with our code. And when you add an environment variable, the container will automatically restart with the new variables. So if you head back to the logs, you'll see it's restarting. And now it is looping every second. Another cool thing we can do is purge data. So if you go to the actions page on the device page and you select purge data, it'll delete all the files in your /data directory, essentially wiping out our database. And this, of course, will also restart the container. So now if you head back to the logs, you'll see the reading count is now at 1 again, meaning the database has been wiped. So that's it for this video. That should give you a good understanding of persistent storage, environment variables, and Dockerfile templates. As always, let us know if anything's unclear. We'll catch you next time. Cheers.